Hey everyone, I'm Jay.
I'm Sophia.
And I'm Scott, and welcome to Witches Betwixt.
Today we're going to be doing a part 2 of the Witchcraft for the Apocalypse episode. Things have changed pretty drastically since that episode. For me personally, my entire life is flipped around. Fortunately, I can say that no one that I know in particular, no one is sick in my immediate surroundings. So, so far I've been fortunate in that regard that no one has, been sick or anything like that. But it's just been a whole lot of other financial, economic, social, mental, other implications. But I think what we're going to do in this episode, since Scott wasn't here with us for the first part of this, we're actually going to have them kind of take the lead and open the discussion on the part 2 of this. So, Scott,
Yeah,
let's talk.
Oh man. So, to start out, the reason I wasn't in the first part of this, I was kind of going through a lot. I was potentially infected. Thank goodness I am not. And when I found that out the same day, or soon after anyway, I also lost my bunny, so I was emotional wreck. Um, I'm better now. And I do not, like I said, I don't have the virus. I mean, to be honest, my life has kind of been, for me, it's been pretty normal, right? Like, I wasn't working. The only thing really is the kind of extra care that we're putting around, or putting up, I guess, just in living our lives because my father's here and, um, outside of the emotional strain that puts on me, but on dealing with the pandemic, my father was on 3 years of chemo, and he has COPD. Basically, we have to be incredibly careful. If he gets it, he's gone. So on top of that, my mom is an essential worker in the medical field, so there's that. But she's at a doctor's office, not in the hospital, so it makes it a little bit easier. Um, I don't know. To be honest, I've been dealing with this emotionally pretty well. Um, it's sad, and watching and feeling other people's pain, that's kind of the heavy part for me. Um, I wish that I could do something like more than just cast spells, which I do, and I ask the ancestors and the land spirits, and I do that, which isn't doing nothing, right? I mean, like that the spell work is doing something totally. Um, but I understand that that's what I can be doing. That's right now my thing. Um, but all in all, like I'm not panicked, I'm not anxious. Uh, I'm just cautious and aware of my surroundings. I don't go outside, I self-isolate. Um, but I kind of do that anyway. I'm such an introvert, so it didn't really change. The only thing I will say is not having the freedom to roam around outside kind of made me a little stir crazy at first, which I was shocked, but it was more just because, like, before, if I wanted to go out, I had the option. But now it's kind of like, unless you really have to go out, don't go outside. So it was just like, because I can't, I wanted to. Um, but everything has been pretty nice. I try not to watch too much scary news. I try not to boggle my mind with any fear mongering stuff. Uh, you know, I looked at the numbers as of today on the CDC website, um, and they're pretty high, but it could be a lot worse too. So as of today, it's 186,101 people here in the
That
United
might be
States have it.
actually a little out of that might be a little out of date. There's actually a website that loads faster than everything else. I can link you to it if you want in the resources, but bear in mind you are not gonna like the data that comes out of it.
And for me, in terms of like reporting and information and stuff, I'm kind of just like whatever the CDC and the WHO says. That's just kind of what I've been basing my information off of.
But regardless, realistically, I mean, you know, I don't know. I guess even my therapist said that she's finding a lot of her patients are surprisingly doing better. Um, I find it's other people are not doing so well. Other people that maybe um don't go to therapy, or even people who never particularly presented an anxiety disorder before, but suddenly are now. This has been pretty traumatic for other people. I post a lot of like resources on my personal Facebook page for mental health, and they're doing a lot of things for that right now, in particular like call centers. Um, I don't know. I guess like, I guess what I'm
Okay.
trying to say is all as I do right now, like if I'm looking for hope, if I'm looking for, you know, to see the light at the end of this tunnel, I kind of, in the wise words of Mr. Rogers, I believe he was the one who coined this, I believe, um, look for the helpers. Uh, I look for the people that are doing good work, just like the people that are helping each other, the people that are doing good things for their neighbor if they can. Um, gives me hope, gives me joy, it gives me a sense of, things are not they are both as bad and not as bad as you think they are, kind of simultaneously. Um, you got to take it seriously, you know. Um, if you are in any way immunocompromised and you get this virus, you know, it's life threatening. Um, it is less life threatening for, people without chronic illness who are generally young. Most of the young people that did have it and who passed away from it, unfortunately, were sick otherwise, um, which is, of course, unfortunate. I really don't know what to say about it, mostly because I have had the strangest sense, and I'm not trying to I don't want to sound like a jerk or insensitive or that, like, I'm not seeing this as a serious problem, because I absolutely do. Because also my partner is is asthmatic, so, and he's an essential worker. He works at a grocery store.
Yeah, I was gonna say
So,
like he's out there.
I worry about him. I grill him. I tell him, he found masks, so he has masks at work. Um, he taped, the aisles so that way people stand 6 feet apart. He actually marked it. Um, they now have plastic between him and the like a plexiglass between them and the customer. Um, yeah, I mean, like, and he has to desanitize when he comes in the house. I'm a nervous wreck. You know what I mean? Like, but at the same time, I know that I will be no good to anybody if I'm panicking. Uh, Panic makes epidemics worse because when you panic, you mess up. You do things that you shouldn't do. Um, when you remain calm and you remain alert but not anxious, you are able to act accordingly. Um, I don't mean this to sound like a PSA either, but I have, for the past weeks, I have felt this immense serenity. I was telling my therapist about this. Um, and this is also for some emotional things too, some things that happened with my dad, but I don't want to get into that here. But at the same time, it was other things. This kind of forced isolation has made me very deeply introspective, and I just feel really good. And not because like I'm avoiding anything. I'm not even disassociating. Which is another weird thing. I've had zero symptoms, and one might say it's because you have had no stimulation. But due to the other emotional things, I know that this is, and things I've talked to my therapist about, I know this to be a bit different. Um, so yeah, like I said, like I'm interested in, like, for instance, I'm just like picking up things like For instance, if you're a seamstress, a tailor, or a dressmaker, and you have the ability to use your material to make masks, those masks could be sent to other organizations so they can send their N95s over to the hospitals. There is a Facebook group for you to do that. So if any of our people are clothes makers of any kind, please look for that. Unfortunately, I don't have a link for you. I don't even have a name, but it's findable. If you look up a YouTuber, she's she does Victorian wear. Her name's Bernadette. Um, she lives in New York City. You can find her videos, and she'll probably have a link there. I probably could get it for you and put it in the thing at the end of the video. But like I like looking that stuff up, like people doing stuff, you know? That's what's I don't know, that's a big thing for me. I don't know.
I feel that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I like seeing like I remember, I mean just something even as simple as this. There was a lady on TikTok who she's I think she's like a grade school kindergarten teacher, but she also owns a restaurant. Um and because the restaurant's closed, she had a lot of food in the freezers. And one of her friends was a single mother of 3 kids. Now, keeping in mind,
Wow.
she can't take those kids out to the supermarket because they could get sick. Um,
Right.
so she couldn't go to the supermarket. She was afraid because people were buying everything. So she couldn't go. She was stuck at home to watch the kids. She doesn't have a partner or a husband or what have you. So this lady, who is one of her friends, was like, "My restaurant's not open. I have tons of food in the freezer." She was like, "I'm going to end up making a new order anyway." She went to her restaurant, got food that she can actually got that this lady could actually cook herself, and she filled her friend's fridge. She wore a mask the whole time and gloves, and she helped her friend. You know what I mean? And I thought that I was like, that's humanity. You know what I mean? That's what I'm
Yeah,
looking
that's
for right now.
nice.
I'm not looking. I mean, I can pay attention to the numbers of the sick people, and I can pay attention to the number of people dying, and don't underestimate it. I pray at my altar for those people every day. You know, all those people that have died have now gone to be with the ancestors, and whether I know their names or not, I praise them for, their bravery and their suffering, and I'm sorry that they had to suffer. You know what I mean? Like, uh,
Yeah.
I had a friend, a distant friend. We haven't spoken recently, but every time we do talk, there's never been any beef between us. She's actually kind of a neighbor. She only lives a block away from me. Her stepdad, who she loved very much, he survived cancer, right, about a year ago or less than a year ago, only to get COVID-19 and pass away the other day.
Uh,
And he was touch and go with cancer, and he beat it, but now come along uh, the virus, and that took his life. Like, I mean, I could dwell on that, or I can take that somewhere spiritual. Not saying that it was a spiritual reason, just saying that I can honor him at my altar. You know what I mean? Um, Lift up his name, and what is remembered lives. Uh, I guess that's my approach to it. I mean, I hope I don't sound. And this, I mean, I'm kind of actually speaking directly to the audience. Like, I mean, um, I hope I don't sound cavalier or nonchalant, but I don't want to be one of those people that's like, oh my God, this is happening. Start to, I don't want to fearmonger. I want you all to survive. I want you all to be well. I want all my friends here. I want Sophia and Jay to be well. I want their family and friends to be well. And I know from being a kid that was raised in the medical field, and from being a nerdy, bookish kind of person, I know, and from being a psych major, I know that you have to keep your wits about you in a crisis like this. I know this is, once again, for many of us, it's one of those quote unquote monumental historical moments, and I know that there's a few generations of us that are kind of tired of these.
Mm-hmm.
Every time we go through them, it's war and bloodshed and terrorism and death and crooked politicians. It's never like, uh, you know, I don't know, black people get reparations, and trans people now are completely protected and no one can ever hurt them again, or else they're going to get, I don't know, thrown in jail forever. You know, like there's never anything positive that comes out of these historical things, you know. Kind
Yeah,
of tired
it's
of them.
I feel that. It's that meme that goes around like, I'm tired of being a part of a major historical event.
I posted that. That's where that came
Yeah.
from. But when I posted that, I felt that so deep in my soul, you know. I mean, and also too, I mean, in the last episode, you guys really kind of hit the nail on the head. You know, it's even in Japan, or was it China? I don't remember which, but someone wrote on a wall in like an overpass wall, nothing will be the same, nor should it be, because the way things were not working, and it's true. This virus has caused it has kind of opened the eyes of a lot of people, on a political standpoint, on a social sort of whatever. Um, Things are going to be different, you know, after this, in a lot of ways. Um, and that's a good thing. But as all change, it's going to be a hard adjustment. Um, you know, I'm reading through an occult author, well, a witchy author. Her name's Byron Ballard. Um,
I actually
she
just
was,
ordered her book,
yeah, she's
Earthworks.
making me feel a lot better going through this.
Do you have that, the Ceremonies in Tower Time book?
No, I don't have that one. I have her Acidity and Mad Stones, and I have her Staubs and Ditchwater.
Yeah, I just ordered the Earthworks Ceremonies in Tower Time. I actually messaged her on Facebook because I looked for it on Amazon at first because I was like, oh, maybe it'll be cheaper or this or that. And then Amazon didn't have it, and then I stumbled upon her website and I was like, oh, she actually sells the book like on her personal site. So I messaged her on Facebook and I was like, hey, like, is this the best way to order this book? Because I didn't want to order it from her directly, and if she didn't have any on hand, and then I'd feel bad, like if she couldn't fulfill the order or not.
Right.
So she was like, no, it's fine, just put the order in. So I recently just ordered that book because I feel like it's very relevant to.
Then that's exactly what I was gonna get to. You know, Tower Time. Tower Time is a phrase that she kind of coined, um, meaning the Tower Tarot card, um, which, for many of us, the Tower is not necessarily about total. I mean, it is about destruction. It's about, you know, things falling and changing, and then, you know, something being born again from those ashes. And that's the transitionary period I'm talking about. You know, things will change, and things. I mean, and they should change, but it's going to be hard and it's going to be scary, and I want the people listening, you know, myself, Sophia and Jay, you included, but also our audience, to find the helpers. Like I said, find the healers, find the compassionate ones, find the spiritual healers, find the, you get what I mean, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And on top of that too, make a skill, right? Find a skill, find skills that you want to learn, you know. Like, I've been delving really into bushcrafting, herbalism. Even, well, I already did that, I talk about it all the time on here, but heavy into like gardening and herbalism and bushcrafting and survivalism. And I'm not saying that I think that the world's going to implode or anything like that. I just mean that skills are good, and I'm just trying to say, take this time to grow. Take this time to expand your world. Take this time to step in the shoes of somebody else that isn't yourself. Um, Learn about things that maybe you wouldn't think you would have been interested in. You know, I don't know. Learn to play an instrument. Learn a new language. Um, and the reason I say to do all of these things is because I don't know why I'm about to get emotional. I'm like actually about to cry, and I don't know why.
Hmm.
The reason I say to do all these things is because the changes that we're going to go through right now, things have already been divisive as is, right? I mean, everybody has been at everyone's throat. Um, and there are some pretty hateful people out there. Uh,
Yes.
and I mean, I just saw something today. I won't get into it because I don't want to feed any more into it, but that kind of hurt my feelings. But I can say that there are very good people out there as well, and our voices are smaller. And I know you hear this all the time, but it's true. Um, you just got to look for them. Look for us, people like that, people who care, people who yeah, you know. Um, wow, I'm like trying not to cry. I don't know what is up with me today.
No,
Um,
it's an emotional time period, and I can kind of take the reins from you if you're.
yeah, please.
Yeah. um, so so you were saying how you have kind of found a sense of, I guess, peace and serenity within all the chaos.
On an
Um,
emotional level
on an
in
emotional level.
particular. Yeah.
I have been having actually a very opposite experience and a very just a different experience overall. For me, it is mostly centered around the financial economic impact of this.
Yeah.
So, I worked for a real estate office. My job was not considered essential, which it's not, even though all the realtors were screaming in the company email, like, oh, people need to buy houses. We're essential businesses. No, 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 no. You're fucking not. So shut up. Um, so my job was not considered essential. So there was actually on our website we do have a blog section, and I recently posted a blog to there which details the entire fucking shit show and how it unfolded. So I'll only just, if you want the whole shebang, go there and read it, but I'll give you kind of like the Spark Notes version of what happened. So essentially it's um my boss was freaking out like as this was all unfolding. He was just sending out email after email like wash your hands, do this, blah, blah, like that whole thing. So he was freaking out, but he wasn't coming into the office himself. Of course. No, no, no. He was just sitting at home on his couch and telling us all to wash our hands and keep working. And then it got to the point where he said, "Okay, we're going to switch to a work from home model." To which 99% of my job can be done remotely. So it really wasn't that much of a change. And then the stay-at-home order came. And the stay-at-home order, stay at home unless you're going to the grocery store or medical attention or whatever those couple things are, also getting exercise and stuff. Basically it's stay the fuck home and just wait it out. So the stay-at-home order came. I was still working from home. Um, and then the whole essential business thing happened. Real estate offices were technically closed, even though technically to close a real estate transaction, the seller can do everything, can sign all their papers remotely, and the only person that has to be there in person is really the buyer to sign mortgage documents. So if you have an 8 foot long conference table, you can have that person come into the office, sign their papers, the title clerk signs it, and then the transaction's closed. You know what I mean? So they could still conduct business and make money. So uh, my boss then laid us all off. He laid off the staff, and that meant that we were laid off. He gave us no recall date or anything like that. So he said, "You're laid off." But what he said was, "You're laid off, but you still have to work for me." And that's illegal to do that.
Mhm.
So he was, I'll pay you on the side, this and that, personal check, whatever the fucking thing was. But the thing is, something like that, that's not even that's just a handshake. You know what I mean? If I do all this work, illegally, and you don't pay me, I have no leg to stand on. I can't fight you, you know? and that didn't sit well with me. And basically, the whole staff, we have agreed that he's done shady things like this in the past. Like, he's laid people off and had them work for cash and like all this kind of stuff. It happens all the time. But in this instance, he's just not a good employer, and he doesn't make good on his promises. He's not good for what he says. And then he cut us all this personal check saying, it was supposed to be like padding in between now, or in between then and whenever we're supposed to get our unemployment check. And then those checks bounced, and those checks bounced so hard it terminated my bank account. Thankfully, I had opened a secondary bank account with another bank. But imagine if that was my primary bank account. That would have really fucked me really hard.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, how it all ended up going down is he laid me off as of March 19th, and I think on the sometime that following week, I went to his office, I dropped off my keys, and I said, I've been laid off since March 19th. I will not be doing Billy on the side. See ya, have a nice day. And he wasn't happy about it, of course. So he texted me and he was like, "You're completely fired." And I'm like, "I've been laid off since March 19th, so I don't really see how I'm fired, but okay." Um, but yeah,
That sounds like a
so
fundamental not understanding of how that fucking works.
oh yeah, and then he tried to retract his statement of saying like, "Oh, well, okay, so Jay was laid off, but these other two, I've rehired them. They're no longer laid off, and now they have to work full time, and if you don't report to work, then you're fired." And it was just like a fucking mess for no reason. And he's just the kind of guy that fucks with people's livelihoods. I know that he applied for a small business loan, but was he using that to cover his payroll? No. Oh, and that was the other big thing, was that he had no intention of paying us our final payroll check. So I actually banded the office staff together in a group text, and I was like, "So we need to do something about this." And thankfully we got it sorted, but the only way that we got it sorted is because we had like a group conversation and everyone was on the same page. Because that's the other part of his strategy. He likes to talk to us all individually and pit us all against each other. And honestly, it was really, the job was okay the first couple months in, and then I started to see the true colors of the company and just like how it was being run. And I kind of knew, I was like, okay, this is not a forever job. And I kind of knew that when I took the job, that it wasn't a forever job. But I took the job originally under duress because I needed the money. It was the first job to get back to me. They were paying halfway decent, and I said yes. So it is what it is. But I think just the mental anxiety and stress of that on me has really taken a toll. So um, like sleeping has been hard, and I've been feeling so anxious. Like for about 2 weeks, I didn't really talk to anyone. I just kind of like floated around my house like in a fog. Um, I was dissociating pretty badly. I just felt like my body would be sitting on the couch, but I just felt like I didn't exist. I didn't feel like I was real, and I would kind of get mad at myself too. I'm like, "Oh, you're just being so dramatic. Like you're just being so dramatic." And honestly, like I filed for unemployment on March 20th. I'm supposed to file my first claim on Friday the 3rd, but I don't have any documents from them yet. And I'm also worried um, about them screwing me on it because the state of Pennsylvania has my birth certificate, which they still have not changed after I've given them 3 doctor's letters to change my birth certificate. And without my new birth certificate, I cannot get a social security card. Also, social security office is closed. So it's just I'm stressed. I'm afraid that I'm not going to get what I'm due for being laid off. And I know that the state is just inundated with um with applicants for unemployment, and I know that they're just backed up. And I want to hold on and just hold out hope and say, it's going to go through. Everything's going to be fine. It's just they're backed up. They're backed up. You'll get what you need. And I am fortunate enough that Joyce's salary can cover like our basic necessities and stuff like that. So I am fortunate enough to have a partner that I live with, that I share expenses with, but I don't like feeling dependent on anyone for any reason. And that's just kind of how I'm wired. And yeah, it's just been I've been just incredibly stressed, and I feel like stressed is like an understatement. I've just been wrecked because I just feel like my entire life and livelihood has been just like ripped out from under my feet. And I know that all of these shutdowns, you know, I know that everything that is being done is for the correct reasons, because we have to stop the spread of this virus. I understand why all these things happen. I just hate that my employer just decided just to be a huge fucking cock about the whole situation. And he didn't care about his people, and he made that very obvious. And that's where I was just the most upset, is that he just obviously didn't care. Um and I'm sure he's pissed that I got over on him too. So, you know what? Fuck him. Fuck you. You know what I mean? I'm kind of in that stage now where I'm kind of moving past the crippling anxiety and depression. Like when I wake up in the morning, I feel nauseous, my heart starts racing. Like I have maybe like, I don't know if it's like an anxiety flare up or panic attack. I don't really know what you would classify it as, but when I wake up, this happens. These feelings happen. And then I lay in bed for a little bit and I'm like, okay, time to get up. And then I get up, do my usual things. I tried to flesh out a whole new schedule for myself, to put my full efforts into working on this podcast and my other projects and hobbies and business ideas that I have, but it's been hard. I've only really been able to do like one or two major things in a day because I run out of energy to keep going. But I feel like I'm on the mend, but it's just the anxiety is just it's just crippling, and I'm not really sure how to, like, I've always had anxiety and I've always managed it, but now I'm at a point where I'm like, I feel like it might be unmanageable and I kind of don't know what to do about that. That's just kind of where I'm at right now.
I have this tree. I don't even know what kind of tree it is. It has these little beautiful white petals and it shines really bright white and it's tall and it's like in my yard. Well, not my yard, but in the
Hanging
alleyway.
over into your yard, yeah.
Yeah, and like all the petals were falling down and they were caught by the sunlight and the sun felt good on my skin. I felt good, I mean, I love the rain too, but the sun
Yeah.
definitely felt good. It felt good to be, out there.
I felt like when I stood out in the sun earlier, I'm like, wow, this feels good. I kind of laughed to myself. I was like, man, my little high school goth emo kid is probably like, how dare you? How dare you find comfort in the big ball of fire in the sky?
But
And I'm
in all
like, but I'm
seriousness
old
though.
now and sad. I'm sad for real reasons, not just
Yeah, yeah.
teenage reasons.
But I mean, the good thing is that, it sounds to me like you're going through grief, Like,
Yeah.
and I think you're allowed to. I think everybody's allowed to. This has really hurt a lot of people, for that same reason and other reasons. I think I have about 5 people who had to cancel their wedding
My
on
sister,
my Facebook.
yeah, my
Um
sister had to cancel hers.
that's 6.
Yeah.
Yeah,
um
my metamors were gonna get married on April, but they can't now.
they, so like weddings are done,
My birthday's canceled.
graduation trips, some of them are canceled. Like these big moments for people. I mean, other things too. And they might seem silly, but when you really think about it and you put life into perspective, those things kind of mean something. There's a reason we do them, for people. They may not mean something to you personally, but for other people, those things had emotional meaning. They were celebration. They were joyous and happy. And now, people have to grieve, you know? And I think like what we should be doing, not just for you, Jay, like but other people too, is facilitate their grief. Don't just kind of be like, well, think about what's happening. Don't be selfish. Blah blah blah. Instead of doing that,
Oh, trust
just
me, like I am always thinking about what's happening. I don't think I've ever talked to my dad as much as I do now
mm,
because
mm,
he I shouldn't say he's a lot like me. I'm a lot like him in the fact that like he definitely has some kind of like anxiety disorder, whatever. And I think I get that from him or whatever it may be.
it's
But
pretty
he's bad.
biological, yeah.
Yeah, I mean he's bad. Like he just sends me link after link after link, text after text after text. He's like, millions of people are gonna die. Oh, enjoy your friends' company now because they all could die. And he's just freaking out because he recently just retired, and he's like, I moved so far away from my family, and I'm like, Dad, we're all here, we're all fine, we all have money, we all have food, and we all have health insurance, we all have a place to live. Like, there's not. What are you gonna do? You can't punch a virus in the face. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like, you can't do. Even if you lived right next door to me, you could still do nothing to like stop people from getting sick. You know what I
Right.
mean?
But
So.
I think that's part of it, right? Like,
Mhm.
as people, I think, in particular with this, I think people want something to blame.
And I get it. I get it
Yeah,
100%,
yeah, totally.
And you know what? And I'm kind of like a little bit pissed at myself because I didn't like my job. I hated my job. I didn't like it. It was a soul sucking. I've talked about it a bazillion times. Like we should have like a bingo card. Like every time Jay mentions how much he hates his job, you know what I mean? Like put a little mark on your bingo card because like I talk about it all the time, and I hate the fucking job. And I knew that in April there was going to be a merger anyway, and I was going to get laid off. But I think it's just the way it all went down. It just hit me that much harder, and because it happened a lot sooner, and it just hit me that much harder. And I was kind of yelling at myself. I'm like, well, you should be like happy that like you don't have to go to this job anymore. But now there's just so many question marks. Like thankfully I paid all my bills for April, but I just hope that this unemployment thing kicks in so I can pay all my bills for May. So that's just where it's just the money in paying my bills thing comes in because I don't want to put all this extra strain on Joyce because we don't
Yeah.
know if a pay cut is happening for Joyce soon because no one's riding Amtrak. No one's on the trains and they can only sustain for so long before they have to start making cuts. So that's just where I'm at. But yeah, I'm just really pissed at myself because I'm like, you hated the fucking job anyway. Now you have time to reprogram yourself and for yourself now. Like I can actually do this. And it's just hard for me to get going in the morning. It's hard for me
If
to sustain that.
if I can also say too, not to contradict what I said during my very long spiel in the beginning of all this, but also don't be ashamed, and this goes to not just Jay, but to anyone. If you need this time to recuperate, if you need this time just to survive, just to be well, and not do, like not make big plans. I mean, still make plans, try to have something, but if you're not there right now because of everything going on, that's also okay. Like you can do small steps, baby steps, but maybe, you don't have to make big life-changing decisions either. That was
Yeah.
something I read today from
Yeah.
a friend. Um,
I've been trying
you,
to keep that
you
in a perspective. I've been seeing a couple tweets and stuff like that going around. I'm like, if I can get like one or two goals done in a day, I'm trying to count that as a success.
hmm
Um, but yeah, I mean that's just kind of how my quarantine has been going. But I'd like to get Sophia's input on
Yeah.
yeah, because we kind of like segmented this into thirds, I guess. But so how's your quarantine, Sophia?
Is I'm honestly a mess.
Mm.
But I'm okay. I'm like
a functional mess.
kinda like, I don't know. The days are all blurring together. I wake up real late. I have trouble sleeping. I keep doing the same things. I'm not really cleaning up after myself. My room is degraded into a mess of stuff that I'm just like slowly shifting around. But at the same time, I'm like much more active with DKMU stuff and like putting time into projects with that. And we're working on doing stuff. And if anybody ever wants to get involved, like, hey, we got our Discord server pumping right now, so come on over for the DKMU stuff. And I don't know, I've just been like emotionally checked out, yet also intimately aware of the data of what's going on and crunching numbers of everything. Like, I linked that website to y'all that I've been getting my numbers from, and right now it says that like the US like 205,000 confirmed cases. Like, this website's consistently a day ahead of everything else that's reporting.
Mm-hmm.
So
Where do they get their data from? I'm
I
curious.
don't know. It's just a straight up world data website. You'd have to take a look at it, but it's been exceedingly accurate for everything that I've looked at so far. And I don't know, like, I'm just trying to keep it together and like work on leading change in a positive direction, you know? Like, I've talked a lot in last episode about like how mad I am at the rich and like everything that's going on, and everything that's developed since our last episode kind of really coincides what I was talking about with the need for massive social change and like being ready for a social revolution right now. Because it's like, look, the rich people and capitalism is literally killing us right this second. We keep let it going after this, then we're going to get it even worse with global warming. We have literally no choice right now. So it's like, I don't know, I've been putting a lot of time and energy and thought into that, and like looking into what we might want to build society like afterwards, and like what does it mean to do affirmative actions, and like just a lot of things that I can't actually even necessarily get into on this. Um, it's been a lot, and I've been having like my packages get stolen. Like, my sister and my family pitched in to mail me some stuff, and I've been getting them stolen off of my fucking doorstep. And I've like tried to leave a decoy package out now with like curses in it for the people who've been like stealing my shit. But I don't know, it's frustrating, and I ain't exactly happy right now. And like Scott was talking about working on doing stuff to get better and working on skills. I've been working on my makeup a lot more. I've been
Ooh, that's
taking
great.
inspiration from a lot of Instagram models, and I am routinely screenshotting the looks that I want to try and learn stuff from. And I've been working on getting a little bit better at eyeliner and eyeshadow, and really kind of trying to get into that and do Instagram photos more. So if you're interested, you can follow me on my personal account. It's real easy. It's the Lavender Bandit. It's a very nice name.
I just realized the other day that you switched your handle because it was Wild Water Witch for a
it
while.
it wasn't as good. The Lavender Bandit is fantastic.
Oh yeah, I like it so much better, but it's because we're doing this like I'm taking like a lot of your photos and doing like a series of it on social media,
Oh
and
yeah.
I tagged you in it like for the photo credit, and I was like, you're not that handle anymore. Oops.
Yeah. I'm trying to work on my makeup and outfit design a lot more, and like maybe get into modeling eventually, because like I've been taking the burlesque classes that got put on hold, so I'm like trying to pump that into like another avenue in my life that, you know, brings me to like what I really want to do, which is like performance and be this really pretty goth chick from my dreams, you know. um I also got a job that I'm not going to go into too much details about because it's fairly personal, but I'll be essentially a telehealth worker. It's like a work from home thing. It's really fucking ironic that like after so many years of like job insecurity and not being able to get stuff like set up, that suddenly in the middle of a pandemic, when everybody else is losing jobs and like all this their security, it's like, hey, here's a full-time job that's work from home with benefits. Pew, pew, pew. And it's like, how? What the fuck? And it just fell into my lap, and I got the job. So I'll be starting that at the end of April, which is pretty tight, but I still gotta hang on for a month without like any pay because I don't qualify for any of the Canadian government aid options
Oh,
because I'm unemployed and I don't have EI stuff. It's stupid.
for us, our stimulus check is they go off of either if you filed taxes already for 2019, or if you haven't done that yet, then they go off of 2018. And then single people under $75,000, they get a $1,200 check, and married couples that made 150 or less, they get 2,400. And then if you have kids, you get 500 for each
Yeah.
child. I there's actually I kind of just want to say a couple things about this whole stimulus package. Um, I think a lot of the corporate bailout, not even I think, the corporate bailouts are just, we haven't learned our fucking lesson. Okay, we haven't learned our lesson. We haven't learned our lesson with bailing out Wall Street. Okay, whatever, it is what it is, because this country will never fucking learn. Um, the stimulus package, I know a lot of people are like, oh, it should be more, oh, it should be this. And I'm like, I'm surprised we even fucking got anything. I'm shocked. I'm not like praising our administration, our current leaders right now. I'm just in a state of shock that they actually did something. Like they did something, and it's going to directly impact people in this country. And yeah, and I know people are like, oh, well, it's just an advance on like a tax credit for next year and this and that. And I'm like, I don't care where the money fucking comes from, because the US just runs everything on a giant fucking credit card anyway. So it's just like money has no meaning and value, because we didn't have money for all this shit, but now we have money for like trillions of dollar bailouts, and you know what I mean? Like we don't have money to give to people on food stamps, but we have money to bail out fucking corporations. Like it just, we know
I mean,
you're
that
fucking
part I've
lying.
heard.
You know what I mean? It's like we
That part,
know
yeah.
you all lie about money, so like whatever. But I'm just floored. I'm just shocked that they did something. Um I'm just kind of in a state of shock. No, I still won't believe it until I physically see it, until I see those numbers hit my bank account, or I see a check in the mail, or in my hand rather. Then, I'll believe it when I see it, but I'm shocked.
I'm just hanging in there and doing my shit, I guess. I don't really know how to elaborate too much without going into a lot of details about personal shit, and I don't want to like air all my laundry on the channel.
Mhm.
I don't like ever doing that, but like I've been doing some more pseudo admin kind of stuff at DKMU, like mod related stuff on getting monthly rituals set up and working on a collaborative magical script I had mentioned, and we're working on a new book too, which is pretty rad. So there's a bunch of
Mhm.
things going on that's like alive and well, and I've been putting a lot of my energy into reconnecting people with that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like doing projects and stuff like that, it makes me feel better as I'm doing it, but I just think there's just so much underlying like stress about other things that I'm just so drained after I do like those one or two things. Like those couple things that I want to do, I'm just like, wow. I'm just so drained after that. Like, are you experiencing that too? Like things feel like they take more energy out of you?
Depends. Like the thing that was hardest for me was getting my groceries and meds because like I had to walk 2 kilometers to get my meds, and then I was doing it in a gas mask with like multiple layers of coats on so that I could like completely like suit up sort of thing, because I've got like experience with hazardous materials and how to suit up and quarantine, or not quarantine, decontaminate and shit. So I went out with like a respirator on, with like gloves on that were like taped down on the edges and stuff so that stuff couldn't get underneath. And people were looking at me like I was sick, and they were like avoiding me and being all real paranoid. And it's like a double-edged knife, because it's like, one, it's nice that people are actually fucking respecting social distancing when I was dressed
Yeah.
like that, you know? Because they're like, oh, ooh, she's probably sick, I better stay away from her. But it's like, two, if I was sick, I would be at home or in the
Right.
hospital. I wouldn't be out and about. I certainly wouldn't have my makeup done, which I did, and I
Yeah.
certainly wouldn't be carrying groceries home. You
Right.
know?
Yeah.
Like, everything in logic brain would say, hey, this person is totally fine, but everyone's absolutely acting irrational, and like people were staring at me. But then like other people who know like reasonable stuff were happy that I was like well protected. Like the pharmacy staff appreciated that I was like suited up, you know, instead of just like not fucking taking it seriously.
Yeah.
Because you get all these people running around without gloves on or without any type of face covering, and like they're touching their face and shit, and they're like opening stuff with their opening doors with their hands still, and it's like, bro, like you can literally push every door that opens inward open with your foot just at the bottom by pushing on the door. That's it. You don't even have to touch it, and if it opens, you can elbow the what is it? The handicap door open assist button. You can pull the door open with your elbow. Like, there's tons of things that you can do where you don't have to like put your hand on a handle that everybody else touches, right? But people refuse to change their ways, and it's like, this virus, what it's doing is testing our ability to adapt to change. And people who are refusing to change with the times are the people who are getting infected by it and getting hit the worst. And it's like really sad, because there's a lot of people that I've like been trying to issue cautionary advice to who just won't take it, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, you can't control people. You can't make them stay inside. You can't make them put gloves on or like cover their face or like learn to cough into their elbow. They will keep doing it until it just ends up crushing them. Like, look at how we have people talking about like, oh, I volunteer to go die for the economy to keep it going. Like, the old people in America are saying we should like volunteer to go out and work stuff right now and die to keep the economy going. And it's like, it's so absurd how everyone's responding to this. And rather than like talking about how, hey, why don't we just have Jeff Bezos pay for everything rather than
Yeah.
crashing the
For real.
economy? It's, why don't a bunch of poor people die? You know, like, you notice that? And what
Yeah.
areas are being hit the worst by COVID-19? Low income areas.
Mm-hmm.
Can't get testing. Poor people. Rich people have testing. You know how it's the best way to know if you have COVID-19? Go cough on a rich person and wait to see on whether they have it or not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
it's true.
It
Like I
is.
keep seeing all these like celebrity things, like, oh, this celebrity has, tested positive. This celebrity tested positive. I'm like, oh, good for them that they're able to just to get these tests because they got the money.
mm-hmm.
Like, good for them that they can do that. But I think, because I'm on Joyce's insurance, I think they sent out something saying like, if you need a test, like they'll cover it. But I don't know if you can actually like even get a test. Um, but of what you were saying of people who like won't change their ways, of being a lot of older people, my grandfather, my mom's mom, who lives down in Florida, it he's just one of those people that is just so stereotypical, and also hypocritical. So his son's wife was in contact with someone who tested positive, informed her and said, I've tested positive, so I wanted you to know. And then my uncle, he's immunocompromised or whatever, but then my uncle had contact with my grandparents. So my grandfather, he was like, oh, I want to know everything about this lady and where she was and blah, 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 blah. And I'm thinking to myself, man, it doesn't fucking matter. What matters at this point is that she tested positive and you were in contact with someone who is in contact with her. So therefore, you should watch out for yourself, try and get a test if you can, or whatever the case is. That's what you should do. You should quarantine. For they were saying like self quarantine for like 2 weeks. Don't be around people in case you do have it and you spread it. So he just wanted to know about her. Like it was her fault. Like it was all her fault. That he was now at a risk. But he's also the same person that earlier I'd go to work still if I had it because you got to keep working. And I'm like, well, see, well that's the fucking problem. That's the exact problem right there.
Yeah.
Is that you can't do that.
And it's fucking wild, and they don't care.
No.
They're literally willing to die and get other people sick to keep this whole thing going. And it's just like, it's really disheartening to see how wickedly out of touch and ghoulish these people are, that the economy means more than fucking human lives.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't care about like homeless people. No one, they're not talking about what do we do about the shelters. They're talking about the economy. They're made up bullshit. They're fake fucking money,
Mm-hmm. What were you gonna say, Scott?
I was just gonna say, but that's the thing about capitalism, right? Like productivity, right? Like you have to be doing something. You have to be fueling our economy. You have to. It's all about the false god, the green god, of money. And I mean that seems to be all that it's about.
Also, I've been seeing a lot of like religious fanatic stuff start popping up here, like evangelical pastor. There was a guy in Florida who already had like a big like like a service or something like that, and he had a packed church, and they arrested him. And they fucking
I do know that there's a pastor. Apparently it's all queers' faults that coronavirus is here.
Yeah,
We've incurred the wrath of God.
I saw that. I was like, wow, it took them this long to blame the gays.
I know. I was like, this is actually a bit longer than I expected.
Actually, if you really actually like read the Bible, maybe something to do with the whole virus maybe was like, I don't know, the Antichrist, the guy who lies all the time, that's like a false idol and claims to like be, I don't know, a representative of God, which I think Trump does, right?
Yeah,
I think that lines up perfectly. And I think that like your reverence of him is directly the idol worship that was talking about. And then there's like these locusts going across Africa, and then like plagues breaking out, like in pestilence, and it sure sounds an awful lot like they're getting their Revelation book happening right now,
Yeah, it sounds pretty similar.
I'm just saying, if anything's causing it, it's y'all motherfuckers, and we're over here literally like trying to stop it, but you just ain't listening. So the fuck do we do with you?
My dad was telling me about the Florida pastor and everything, and I was like, honestly, Dad, let them all in there, lock the damn doors from the outside, and say, have fun. You know what I mean? Y'all can stay in there.
Someone said whoever survives deserves to get that the check that we're supposed to get. That basically, like, you have to hold their check, and whoever survives at the end.
But you know what? The thing I have that's a problem about this is like all those people burden the medical system, and then they put our professionals at risk, and then they end up like self-quarantining improperly and spreading it, and then it just creates all the more problem. Because if they're that ignorant that they're willing to gather at places to have it happen like that, you can bet your ass they're not going to quarantine or like fucking socially isolate like they're supposed to, and then they're not going to like go to the hospital at the right time, and they're going to cause the biggest fucking impact on everybody else that they possibly fucking selfishly could.
Like, I'll admit, I pushed the envelope slightly. So like our last D&D session, we're like a group of 6. So our last D&D session was like 2 weeks ago, so 2 Sundays ago. But that day, that was the day that the city said that the following day that the stay-at-home order was going into effect. And I knew even at that point I was like, we are kind of pushing this by still being together, but then I didn't feel as weird about it because I knew all of us were working from home, like we weren't really exposed to anyone. But so anyway, so it was kind of, it wasn't a smart decision. But we were just like, wow, we're so like cooped up, and you know, whatever, we'll just still have D&D. But we decided then, I was like, there's a stay-at-home order. Like it's just no, it's too much, it's too real, it's too serious. You know, we're just gonna switch to playing online, and like it sucks because I really love that person-to-person social interaction. Like and honestly, like the only people that I've been interacting with in person, Joyce, because I live with Joyce, my grandfather, because he stops here every day to get his mail, but I always keep my distance from him because I'm like, I don't want him to get sick, because if he gets it, he's like in his 70s, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he's got some, you know, health issues and whatnot. Like he's all right, but you know, he's older and a diabetic, and so you know, he's high risk, and I know that my dad would go insane if his dad, you know, got sick, and so I know it would just be bad. But so yeah, I mean, we did kind of push the envelope a little bit last week, but you know, I said to everyone, I was like, look, we just can't. Like, it's just not gonna happen. I don't want to take the risk. And like at first, I could tell because a couple of the guys, they're a little bit younger than us, and they're like, oh well, we could. I'm like, no, we can't. We really can't. Um, and that sucks. And like, and I think it's like, it's okay to be like, hey, this sucks, because it does. You know, there's
Mhm.
nothing like great about it. You know what I mean?
No,
It's not like a fun time. You
I
know,
miss
like fuck
D&D a
you and all
lot.
your
I miss
Corona
my D&D night.
parties. Oh yeah, yeah, because you guys had a session too, right?
Well, our last session was, oddly enough, it was not like, when was it? It was back. It was like a month ago almost.
Mm,
We actually stopped really early. Like we just found out about it. Like
mm,
when we stopped, it wasn't considered an epidemic, or even it wasn't even considered an epidemic yet.
uh,
Um, we knew that it was happening, but my friend Eileen was sick. She had strep throat, not. She was just getting better. Uh, yeah, but we had stopped because we noticed it started getting serious, and then
mm-hmm.
because we do bi-weekly, it gave it enough time for them to be like,
Stay at
no, you
home.
know.
Yeah.
So by the time our next session was coming up, at first we were thinking about pushing it, but then we were like, you know what? We have too many people at risk in our lives. Let's just not. And then we were trying to set it up online. We were trying to use Discord audio and stuff. Uh, but none of my party really wants to do it except for me, Darian, uh, Chris, I guess, and my friend Richie. All the other two are not really interested, and I don't know.
Yeah, it was hard. Like we ran a session last week online, and it was difficult to get the same level of engagement, because there's just something about, like, you're all sitting there, you see the looks on people's faces, you see their body language, you know, there's something about like rolling dice on a table, and you know, passing the snacks around. So like I get it.
Yeah.
I get it 100%, but these I will sacrifice in-person D&D to prevent the spread of a deadly virus, you know
Same,
what I mean? And
same.
like,
Yeah.
and for anyone who can't fucking understand that, I'm like, I don't know how to help you. Like you're beyond reason at that point. You're just
Like,
completely beyond.
yeah. Never mind. I was gonna say
I was
something, but I don't know if that person watches my podcast, so I won't say. They said something today, but I won't say because I don't know if they watch it.
You can say it after.
Yeah.
um I'll say that like I had a polar opposite response to D&D thing. Like we haven't been playing like anything right now,
Mhm.
but because of the pandemic, my girlfriend was like, "Hey, I'll start up a campaign on Discord and we'll start doing it together." So we're like literally setting up to like start D&D this Sunday on Discord.
That's awesome.
Have y'all not used Discord?
I haven't. I mean, I have a Discord. I haven't had the chance to like really
Okay.
with it yet, but
after this call, I'm gonna run you two down on Discord. I'm also planning on
I'm familiar with Discord.
doing.
I use it a lot.
I'm
I'm in
gonna
a
shoot
bunch
some
of different
pictures
channels.
though. Okay. But I'm also planning on doing Witches Betwixt group hangouts, which I was thinking maybe we do Friday nights or something, you know, and get that going for being like a regular thing.
Yes, I do definitely want to do that, and I do definitely want to do more community engagement, especially right now when everyone is so distant and feeling, it's
Yeah,
Mhm.
lonely. and
lonely. Yeah. Like I live with Joyce, like I live with my partner, and I still feel lonely sometimes. And
Yeah.
that's and I feel horrible for people who don't live with anyone, like people who like don't have a roommate, don't have like a dog or a cat, like no other companionship. Like I I feel for those people.
I'm lucky I have my roommates, but we really don't talk much right now because like Nika and I don't talk a whole ton anyways, and
Right.
everyone's been pretty stressed, so like they seem to be keeping more to themselves, and I've been in my room a lot, so I've been really isolated, and I haven't seen my girlfriend for about a month now. It's been like, oh man, this Saturday it'll be 3 weeks of isolation, which means yeah, I won't have seen her for at least a whole month now, which is
Yeah.
getting to be a long time, and it's hard because I was someone who went into isolation really early. Like I was at least 2 weeks ahead of most people who went into isolation or before they gave like the hard order, right? So it's it's been difficult because I've been on it from the get-go and doing everything I can to stay in and not get it and not spread it and like do my part, and it's hard to see everybody out there like laughing it up and gathering and having fun and spreading it and making all the time that I'm spending inside count for nothing while I'm like
Right.
literally
Wasting
it's
away, it feels like.
it's impacting my mental health. I'm
Mhm.
literally feeling like shit because of it. I have to spend a whole bunch of time alone. Like I'm not going to get to see my loved ones for months on end because other people are being selfish and
Yeah.
they don't want to stop. And it's not even just that. That's a small thing. Like that's not even that pales in comparison to people literally fucking dying, you
Mhm.
know? Like it's so much, and like between like package thieves and corporate bailouts and like in Vancouver people were stealing parts off of fucking ambulances. Like
What?
it's wild. Scott says focus are helping, but like I watch everything and I'm very disheartened at what some people are doing, and I think there needs to be a fucking reckoning for the people who are taking times like this as a chance to exploit other people rather than like helping out, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's been, I guess, to take a little bit of a positive spin on, like I'm always one of those people, like I find dark humor, um, I don't know, revitalizing. Like it makes me, if I can laugh about something that's super serious, it makes me feel slightly better. So I won't lie, like I've been looking at the memes, I've been getting my little laughs and my little eye rolls and this and that, and that's been kind of making me feel better, but I don't lose sight of the bigger picture. I don't lose sight of the importance of what's happening right now. Um, but I think the weirdest thing for me so far has been and the only other person outside of who I live with that I do see is Katie, because she's got to come over and get like pick up cat food and stuff. So I do interact with her. Um, but we took a drive down to Center City where my sister's at, as I've been collecting her mail. She still gets a shit ton of mail here. So I was like, look, I have your mail. It's in a box. Me and Katie are gonna drive down and give it to you. Just like wait outside in the car. Here's your box of mail, kind of thing. So we gave her mail. And Center City, Philadelphia, looks like a like an actual zombie apocalypse. It happened already. There's a ton of restaurants down there. Everything's basically boarded up. There's hardly any traffic. Um, and really the only people that are out, the majority of the people that are out are just like are homeless, people who might be addicted to drugs and like that. It's just it's them, and they're milling around, and a lot of them do have like addictions and mental health issues and stuff. So a lot of them are just like walking around like mumbling and groaning and screaming and stuff like that. And it really looked like something out of like it looked like The Walking Dead or something like that. It really rattled me to see that, and I was like, oh man, like that's just really rough to see. It didn't feel like the same city. Just didn't feel like the same city at all. But I did just a couple hours ago, actually, I did see something, and I keep hearing about how everyone's saying, oh, this is our world's going to change, like our world's going to be different after this. And I'm like, I really do hope that our world is different after this, before the better. I do hope that we make better changes. But I heard my neighbor across the street. She was like, it was earlier in the day. She was walking up to her house. She was on the phone talking to someone. She's like, oh, something, something, and it's my birthday, and blah, 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 blah. I was like, oh, it's her birthday. That sucks, like with quarantine and stuff. And then later on in the day, this car drove by, and you could hear like people yeah, like screaming or whatever, and then they were playing really loud music, and I was like, what the fuck is going on outside? Because like I live in the city, people drive by with their music blaring all the time. I was like, what the fuck is this? So it was actually a car full of, I guess it was like a family. It looked like a mom and the kids, and they had written like happy birthday on like these big signs, and they were like, they parked out front of the house, and they were like happy birthday, like to the lady across the street. And she came out on her front step and she recorded it, and I was like, okay, so people are still, they're still trying, you know what I mean? Like we're still finding ways to see people without it being dangerous. And it made me feel good that people were still, trying to make other people feel good. Like people have birthdays and anniversaries and stuff like that. I just thought it was cool. I was like, and I was looking out the window, and Joyce is like, what are you looking at? And I'm like, oh, there's a social distancing birthday party happening out in the middle of the street.
Yeah. That is sweet, though.
Yeah, I thought that was really sweet. So I think there's a lot of good things and bad things that are coming out of this, but me personally, my mental health is just so all over the place. I don't really know how to make sense of it right now. I don't really know how to feel.
Well, I think that we can maybe start doing group shit together, like not necessarily Witches Betwixt is like the whole group, but like us three. Maybe we can get some stuff together, and maybe we could share some rituals with our community too. Like who knows? We have options. We have each other. Like we're not going to get through this any other way than working together. So let's pool our resources and do something cool with the time that we have. Like everybody's locked up and locked in, and I think we have a lot of really unique people who listen to our podcast and who come to our circles who would love to get in on something, and I think it's a great time to start collaborating with other witches and start planning for like what we do when we get out, right? Like we were talking a lot about what we do in DKIM. You were talking about like what are we doing right now, and it's for all witches right now, this is like the plan phase. If you're stuck in your house right now and you can't be going out and doing stuff, plan, prepare,
Yes.
do
That's what I was trying to get.
read,
Yep.
study, get your shit together and coordinate with other witches. Like we have so much power as a community together, and we can do great things. We just got to work together, Like I'm so tired of all the hidden coven bullshit and like witches versus witches and like ice wars with the IoT, that actually happened. Like I'm sick of it. I want to see like us as pagans and people as a greater community come together as a global community, Like I was having this conversation with a friend, and he was saying how it's all about acting on the local level, but I was saying how if you forget the global level as well, you're fucked. Because you are a citizen of the planet just as much as you are a citizen of your local community, right? we need to stop pretending it's one or the other. It's both, you know?
It's very true. It's very true. I think we can kind of sum up now. I think we can kind of wrap up this discussion because we've all kind of just like covered how we've been dealing with it. Basically, we just wanted to do like a check-in kind of episode, and I think it was important to do a follow-up, at least to do a part two. The reason I named the other episode part one is because I knew we were going to do at least one or two follow. I don't want to. I just kind of want to throw this out there. Every podcast episode that we release from now on is not going to be solely related to this. We're still going to stick to our regular topics. We're going to retain some sense of normalcy throughout this. I'm sure that this might be a backdrop to a lot of like the things that we're experiencing and feeling and talking about in the episodes to come, but I just wanted to kind of let everyone know that it's not the plan to just make only COVID-19 related content, because there's enough of it out there, and I think it's important to maintain a sense of normalcy during all of this. Especially, and I'm also just I'm overwhelmed with just the amount of headlines and information and just constant, it's going to be this, it's going to be bad, it's going to be not bad, it's going to be the worst. So I have no plans of doing that even further to our listeners. But we do encourage you to reach out. We're trying to figure out ways to get the community more active with each other, and for us to have more conversations. It is difficult, and we do ask for your patience because, as we've just discussed in this episode, all three of us are going through our own, different varying levels of energy to put into certain things. But it is our goal, the community even closer together during all of this. But I think for now we're ready to. I think we're gonna wrap up this episode here. Are you both comfortable with that, or did you have any kind of like closing remarks or statements or anything?
I mean, I just want to say to everybody, be well and be safe, and I just hope you are all happy at home or coping well.
Yeah, and I can definitely echo that statement. I just want everyone to make intelligent choices. Just make the smartest choices that you can, and just use your logic when you can, because I think using logic and a combination of logic and compassion is going to be two of the most important things that are going to get us through this. So we are going to wrap up the episode here. We are on the big three social medias: Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Our handle is WitchesBetwixt, all one word, on all three platforms. We all check each one except for Twitter, which is exclusively run by me. But feel free to message us on any of them, and we will get back to you. If you want to add your post to our online community, as you know, because we kind of said we were trying to foster a stronger sense of community, you can use the hashtag WBTWXT, and to our official Facebook group, Discord server, and official website are in the show notes below. So for now, I hope you all are well, and we will see you in the next episode.
Bye.
Don't forget to banish.